Single mom's flight delayed. Discover the amazing letter from the CEO that changed everything. Sarah Stewart stood in the buzzing terminal atrium, her 8-year-old daughter, Lily, bouncing with excitement beside her. As a single mom in her late 30s, moments straight from the chaos had become her life's special brew. Yet today felt different. Her heart raced with a mix of anticipation and tension. A prestigious medical conference awaited her, a beacon that could change everything about her nursing career. But the announcement blared overhead: Flight 726 to Chicago is officially delayed. Just like that, Sarah's hope crumbled into unease. Frustration boiled within her. She'd been juggling a million responsibilities, and this delay felt like another blow to dreams already fragile. Could she really present her innovative ideas to the industry leaders if she barely made it to the event? Her mind spiraled, ruminating over sleepless nights and the endless juggling of hospital shifts while trying to provide a happy life for Lily. She felt her muscles tighten, the weight of responsibility felt heavier than ever. "Mommy, can we get ice cream?" Lily tugged at her hand, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in Sarah's chest. The innocent request brought a brief smile to her face, a flicker of joy amidst the overwhelming anxiety. Still, would indulging Lily right now be a distraction or a necessity? Instinctively, Sarah hesitated. Her need to focus on the presentation battled with her desire to give Lily a moment of sweetness amidst uncertainty. As they wandered to the quieter corner of the terminal, Sarah's mind bloomed with doubt. But then she spotted it, a lone white envelope, slightly crumpled but intriguing against the stark flooring. Tentatively, she picked it up. To her shock, the letter was addressed from the CEO of the airline. Unearthing the folds, she began to read, her heart quickening. The words detailed the CEO's own upheavals, a childhood of hardship, moments of self-doubt, and the relentless pursuit of a better life. Each line struck a chord within her. A rerun of her late mother's sacrifices danced through her thoughts. Before long, her emotions morphed from frustration to inspiration, though her internal battle only deepened. Who was she trying to impress? Was it the CEO or herself? How could she balance ambition against the reality of raising Lily on her own? The sleepless nights didn't just fade into thoughts, they transformed into vivid memories of scrimping on groceries, making every dollar count. Her heart raced again, but this time it was fueled by determination. "Excuse me, dear," a voice broke through her thoughts, an elderly woman with kind eyes. "You look a bit overwhelmed." The instant connection elicited a soft laugh and a gentle shift in Sarah's anxiety. Sharing her worries led to laughter, and as they exchanged their stories of struggle, camaraderie sprouted unexpectedly. For the first time that day, Sarah didn't feel so alone amidst the chaos, but the reprieve was short-lived as airline staff approached, visibly aware of her situation. They offered what felt like a surreal opportunity: a private meeting with the CEO. Excitement flared, mingling with an avalanche of self-doubt. Could she truly seize this chance? Her ambition clashed with lingering fears of failure, a haunting specter that tightened around her throat like a noose. Before Sarah could process the tumult of emotions, she found herself poised on the edge of destiny, ready to confront not only her dreams but the very question that loomed larger than life: what did this opportunity mean for her future and for Lily's? Just as she took a deep breath, the overhead speaker announced another delay, her reality crashing in on her once again. Would she have the courage to reach for her dreams? The answer felt agonizingly out of reach, leaving Sarah caught in a tempest of uncertainty, each moment pregnant with the possibility of both triumph and despair. The weight of uncertainty pressed down on Sarah as the reality of the delay settled around her like a heavy fog. Her heart raced, caught between the thought of a future bright with promise and the paralyzing fear of letting herself and Lily down. She scanned the terminal, people rushing past, each lost in their own world, oblivious to her internal struggle. For a fleeting moment, she envied their calm. It felt unreachable for her. Determination flickered within her, ignited by the words in the letter. The CEO's story resonated deeply, reminding her that the most challenging paths often led to rewarding destinations. But could she embrace her own potential? Could she dare to step into the shoes of someone who influences the medical field? Lily tugged on her hand again, bringing Sarah back to the present. "Mommy, can we go see the planes?" The innocence in her daughter's request was a lifeline, tethering Sarah to the simple joys that often eluded them in their hectic lives. "Okay, sweet pea," Sarah replied, forcing a smile as together they meandered toward the glass window overlooking the tarmac. As they watched the aircraft line up for takeoff, a sense of adventure filled the air. The sight stirred Sarah's heart, and she wondered, how many of these pilots faced their own form of turbulence? Her eyes drifted back to Lily, imagining a future where her daughter wouldn't have to struggle to understand the intricacies of adult life. In that moment, Sarah felt a shift. She wasn't just a nurse or a struggling single mom, she was a force to be reckoned with. She grasped the edge of the window, grounding herself with a deep breath. What if she chose to meet this moment not with fear but with fierce resolve? "Mommy," Lily's voice broke through her reverie, "do you think we'll take a plane one day?" A simple yet powerful question. "Yes," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Absolutely, we will." But then came the realization of just how far that might be from her current reality. "Once we reach Chicago, Mommy will show you city lights and the skyscrapers." A flicker of hope sparked within her. The journey wasn't just about the conference, it was about embracing possibilities, for both her and Lily. It was imperative for Sarah to nurture the dreams that had long been buried beneath the duties of daily life. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. The notification was an alert about the rescheduled meeting with the CEO. A surge of adrenaline shot through her. This was her moment of truth, a chance to communicate her ideas and possibly redefine her career. Yet another voice whispered insidiously within her, echoing doubts and hesitations. "What if they reject you?" Bracing herself against the glass, she prepared for the confrontation. This wasn't merely about the meeting, it was about claiming the value of her voice. Her contributions were valid, her experiences brought a unique perspective to the industry. "Mommy, can I make a wish?" Lily interrupted her spiral of thoughts, breaking the tension like sunlight cutting through the clouds. "Of course," Sarah smiled, watching her daughter close her eyes tightly. "What do you wish for?" "A new adventure," Lily exclaimed, eyes sparkling with childlike wonder. Their gazes locked, and suddenly, the fears that weighed Sarah down felt lighter. She laughed, realizing how every small adventure led to something bigger. Perhaps this moment was simply another part of a larger journey, one that would take courage, yet also require an openness to grow and embrace change. The new flight announcement blared through the terminal, signaling her next steps. She felt an exhilarating rush. This was not just about going to a conference, it was about launching into a journey of self-discovery, proving to herself and Lily that clouds could part and opportunities could arise from the most surprising places. With renewed determination, Sarah turned to Lily, whispering fiercely, "Let us be brave together." As they prepared to board, excitement surged within her, mingling with an undercurrent of apprehension. Yet the journey ahead promised beginnings, not just endings. What awaited them in the skies ahead was anyone's guess, but one thing was certain, this would be a flight worth taking. What if this newfound resolve put her on a collision course with her deepest fears? The sense of anticipation grew as the boarding process unfolded, revealing signs that perhaps this journey was about to shift in ways she never imagined. As they made their way down the jet bridge, the metallic rattle of rolling suitcases resonated through the narrow corridor, a rhythmic reminder of the world moving on around her. Sarah took a deep breath, forcing herself to embrace the tightening in her chest as anticipation mingled with anxiety. This was her moment, and she wasn't going to let it slip away. Settling Lily into her seat, Sarah's gaze drifted towards the window, watching the ground crew hustle in a flurry of activity. Each motion seemed deliberate and purposeful, a stark contrast to the swirling doubts in her mind. She wondered if they too faced obstacles. Did they question their choices, or did they forge ahead with dreams unencumbered? Forcing herself to focus, she opened the letter again, its words echoing in her mind, "You are capable of making a difference." With each read, the weight of that phrase pressed forward, urging her to take ownership of her ambitions. The time spent in the terminal had intensified the quiet resolve within her. She had a responsibility to embody that message not just for herself but for Lily. As the plane ascended into the clouds, Sarah felt a familiar flutter in her stomach. It wasn't fear that gripped her now, but exhilaration. The world below shifted, transforming into a tapestry of fields and cities, each waiting to be explored. Moments of clarity began flooding in. Her decade of experience in nursing wasn't just a default career choice but a comprehensive groundwork for innovation. She had witnessed firsthand the challenges patients faced and understood how systemic changes could improve care. "Mommy, look at the clouds. They're so fluffy," Lily chirped, tugging at her sleeve, and pointing toward the dense white formations below. "Yes, they are like big cotton pillows," Sarah replied, a smile breaking through the weight of her thoughts. Yet, within the simplicity of her daughters all lay a profound truth: perspective matters. What if she approached her ideas about healthcare reform with the same childlike wonder? What if she embraced the potential represented by her unconventional journey? As they glided through the skies, thoughts of the meeting drifted into focus. She imagined walking into that conference room, the air thick with anticipation. She could almost hear her own voice, steady and articulate, sharing her insights on patient care and operational efficiency. But on the edge of this daydream, doubt crept back in. What if they hate my ideas? A question she dared to entertain whispered at the back of her mind, threatening to steal her confidence once more. Yet, she clamped down on that fear, reminding herself of the importance of being heard. This wasn't about selling something. It was a call to speak her truth. "Mommy, are you still with me?" Lily's small voice broke through her swirling thoughts, a gentle reminder of why she was pushing so hard. "I'm right here, sweetie," Sarah said, and in that moment, she reflected on the deeper connection between her aspirations and her role as a mother. The plane leveled out, and a calm enveloped her. She realized that regardless of the outcome, this was just the first step on a transformative path. Each interaction, each idea shared, could ripple outward, influencing those around her and eventually, the broader medical landscape. If she chose courage over comfort, perhaps the fears that clung to her would begin to dissolve. She reached for Lily's small hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. It wasn't just about advocating for herself. It was about paving the way for her daughter to dream without limits. As they approached Chicago, the buildings loomed nearer, each skyscraper bathed in sunset hues. Even if the meeting went awry, she had already begun to forge a new path. But dormant emotions stirred within her, a fascination mingled with unease. What if her boldness ignited unexpected reactions? The reality of stepping into the limelight surged forward, urging her to confront the moment that could shift her life completely. With every heartbeat, clarity settled in. Sarah was more than ready to embrace what lay ahead, determined to unleash not just her ideas, but her very spirit. The plane descended steadily, and she felt the weight of expectation. What awaited her could be a turning point, or perhaps the unraveling of something deeper, her true self echoing that anticipation, waiting for the right moment to break free. As Sarah and Lily stepped off the plane, the bustling atmosphere of the Chicago airport enveloped them like a vibrant tide. Travelers hurried by, clutching their belongings, punctuating the air with snippets of conversation and laughter. With each breath, Sarah inhaled both the excitement and trepidation about the day ahead. She stood straighter, the words from the letter echoing warmly inside her, a lighthouse guiding her toward her purpose. Lily, oblivious to the weighty atmosphere, pulled her hand and pointed at the oversized posters advertising local attractions. "Can we visit those?" she asked with bright-eyed enthusiasm. "Well, we'll see," Sarah replied, suppressing the urge to share her worries with her daughter. She was all too aware of the pivotal moment looming ahead. Her path was not merely about being a mother but a significant step towards being the change in the healthcare system she had deeply wished to see. They made their way through the airport, and while waiting for their luggage, Sarah observed people around her, the tired traveler yawning in the corner, the family reuniting with open arms, and the business people absorbed in their devices. Each was a story of hopes, disappointments, and aspirations, mirroring her own journey. What made her different? Why had she placed herself in a position to be scrutinized? The bag finally rolled into view, and she deftly swiped it off the carousel. The act reminded her of how she had learned to juggle responsibilities through years of nursing, a delicate balancing act between caring for patients and managing her own vulnerabilities. If only I could bring that same dexterity into my presentation, she mused, stepping outside into the crisp air. Sarah felt a pang of nostalgia, a familiar yearning to belong to something larger. Yet, a fresh determination sparked within her. The trees lining the streets reminded her of endurance. They adapted to the changing environment, just as she needed to adapt in her professional journey. Arriving at the hotel, her senses buzzed with the anticipation of the day. In their shared room, surrounded by elegant decor, Sarah's gaze drifted to her reflection in the mirror. Who was she really? The nurse, the mother, or the advocate she wished to be? Beneath those roles lay a heart beating fiercely for change, ready to challenge a system that often felt insurmountable. "Mommy, can we eat something nice?" Lily's question broke her reverie. The innocence reflected in her daughter's eyes sent a wave of clarity through Sarah. It was time to feed not only Lily's stomach, but their shared dreams as well. After a meal filled with laughter and plans, Sarah faced the time that had drawn relentlessly closer. With each tick of the clock, her heart raced, constricted by fear and anticipation. She sought a sanctuary in her heart, recalling moments of empowerment, the parents in her hospital who snagged the hardest battles for their children, the patients who taught her resilience. They didn't hold back, and neither could she. In the conference room, the clatter of chairs and the murmur of voices transitioned into silence as she strode in, an invincible blend of nerves and resolve coursing through her. This was the moment she had envisioned, yet here it was, immediate and unwavering. Deep breath. Exhale. She set her notes upon the table and looked around at the eager faces of industry leaders, most of whom she knew only from their accolades. As her mind raced, reviewing the carefully plotted ideas she had prepared, enthusiasm bubbled beneath her skin, urging her to leap into the unknown. Just before she could take the first step forward, uncertainty crept in like uninvited shadows, whispering questions of self-doubt. What if they dismissed her? The thought threatened to unravel her, but she steadied herself. This wasn't just about her ideas, it was about the collective stories she embodied. Each voice, each struggle, each dream was woven into the fabric of what she stood for. What if they could see that through her? With the light slowly dimming in the room, Sarah faced the group, her heart crashing against her chest like a drumbeat. Today, I'm ready to share something transformative, not just for me but for all of us. There was no turning back now. As she began, the energy in the room shifted, and she braced herself. Her journey had just begun, but as she locked eyes with one particular member of the panel, a flicker of skepticism crossed their face. Would she have the strength to confront that challenge? With the tension mounting, Sarah felt the stirrings of an internal showdown rise within her, unveiling the true test of her resolve. As Sarah's voice resonated within the conference room, a moment of silence swelled around her. Her focus sharpened, weaving her words into a tapestry of passion, expertise, and lived experiences. She felt the skepticism emanating from the panelist, like a spotlight focused on her imperfections. But she wasn't here to impress, she was here to disrupt the status quo. She launched into her narrative, painting vivid pictures of the healthcare inequities she had witnessed firsthand, from patients struggling to afford prescription medications to families torn apart by systemic failures. Each story was a brushstroke that brought her vision to life. She articulated her proposed changes with unwavering clarity, her voice growing stronger with each pivotal point. Sarah could see small nods and furrowed brows among the listeners as she moved through her ideas, but the weight of doubt lingered, especially from the panelist she had locked eyes with earlier, a man over 70 with silver hair and sharp lines etched into his face, his skepticism shining through like a beacon. He was a veteran in the industry, likely resistant to the kind of bold innovation she was proposing. The more she addressed the panel, the more she felt his scrutiny pierce her. Invoking the strength of her past experiences, Sarah recounted her own mistakes, the times she had doubted her ability in nursing school, and moments she felt entirely inadequate while juggling motherhood and her career. Rather than diminish her credibility, they became her armor, reminding her that vulnerability could spark connection, not contempt. Change doesn't happen in a vacuum, she urged, her voice rising. It requires courage and a willingness to listen, to evolve beyond what we know. She paused, letting her conviction resonate. The room held its breath, and she seized the moment. The patients I served didn't just need care, they needed advocates, people willing to fight for their lives. The sharp gaze of the skeptic softened for a fleeting moment, and Sarah seized the opportunity to address him directly. What if we risked our current success for future sustainability? Isn't it our responsibility as leaders to ensure a healthcare system that fulfills its promise for everyone? There it was, the shift. The challenge had been laid down, yet, self-doubt lurked behind her applause, whispering that perhaps she was overstepping, endangering her career before it even began. Who am I to question decades of practice? The voice hissed, twisting her insides as she faced the group of seasoned professionals. A bead of sweat trickled down her spine. The pressure mounted, and for a moment, she faltered, hardly able to breathe under the weight of expectation. Was she truly ready to challenge the system? But as she glanced back at Lily, who was peeking through the door, her daughter's wide eyes filled with hope and belief became Sarah's anchor. She recalled their dinner conversation, the laughter echoing in her mind like a mantra, "Mommy, you can change things." With a deep breath, she gathered her confidence. This isn't just about policies and procedures, it's about human lives. It's about mothers like me who want a better future for their children. Each word felt imbued with the raw truth of her experiences. The panel sat in silence, contemplating her fervor, their faces inscrutable. It was in this charged moment that Sarah recognized something profound. She was no longer simply selling an idea, she was staking a claim on her future, one where her voice mattered and where her past struggles would not define her, but propel her forward. As she wrapped up, Sarah felt as if she had crossed a threshold. But still, the flicker of skepticism remained in the older man's eyes. Would they dismiss her as an idealist? Would they validate her vision or bury it under decades of tradition? In the midst of uncertainty, she realized that no matter how this day ended, she had already embarked on a journey of transformation. Whatever the outcome, she had conquered her own limits. Resolve hardened in her heart, for the fight was just beginning. Yet, as the panelists began murmuring among themselves, the skepticism lingering like a fog, Sarah felt a deep-rooted question brewing within her. What would happen if she didn't get the support she desperately needed? Would she still have the courage to pursue her ideas in a system that discouraged change? Uncertainty embedded itself in her mind, urging her to confront not just external resistance, but the battles that lay within. The time had come to face not just the scrutiny of others, but the whispers of doubt that haunted her. Would she summon the courage to keep pushing forward, or would she retreat into her role as a nurse and mother, forsaking the advocate she wished to become? The murmurs of the panel began to fade into the background as Sarah took a calculated step back from the edge of her anxiety. She processed what had just unfolded, her daring presentation, the conflicting tides of support and skepticism. The words, "What if they don't see my value?" turned into a personal battle cry. She had to decide whether to remain in the shadows of self-doubt or to forge ahead. Dive deeper, Sarah, this is not just a losing battle over a presentation. The quiet voice of determination within her began to surface, nudging her to confront her own fears. What was at stake here was more than just an idea, it was her identity as a mother, as a nurse willing to fight for others. This revelation pulsated in her chest, turning the fear into fuel. With the panel still deliberating, she felt the weight of the moment settle around her. Inspiration sparked within her as she formulated a plan. This wasn't merely about gaining support, it was about confrontations, both with herself and the system. She had underestimated the power of her narrative. If her experience could inspire just one member of the panel to embrace her vision, it would ignite a ripple effect. The idea of mentorship also crept into her thoughts. Just then, Her mind raced to past encounters with mentors who had shaped her path: the nurse who encouraged her to pursue her dreams despite the challenges of motherhood, the professor who had pushed her to excel, even when she doubted herself. Sarah now realized that she needed to seek mentors within this room, influential figures who could help guide her vision into reality. Determined not to let this opportunity slip away, she took a bold step toward the skeptical panelist, who seemed to be navigating the chorus of remarks around him. He was not just a critic, he could be an ally, a key to unlocking the potential within the stale walls of complacency. "Excuse me, sir," she interrupted gently, breaking into his contemplative state. "I know my vision might sound unconventional, but isn't every breakthrough initially met with skepticism? I would love to hear your thoughts on my proposal." Sarah took the brave step of directly seeking his insights, forging a connection where there seemed to be a wall. This uncharacteristic act of vulnerability commanded her confidence. If she could soften his skepticism with her earnestness, she could transcend the limits she thought were imposed upon her. He shifted in his seat, a flicker of surprise crossing his face. "Most people don't approach me like that," he admitted after a pause. His eyes searched hers, and this time, lacking the previous disdain, there seemed to be a spark of curiosity and intrigue. "You believe in what you're saying, don't you?" "Yes," she responded, the steadiness of her voice surprising her. "I believe everyone deserves equitable healthcare, including the mothers who give everything for their children. If we can't create an environment where that's possible, then aren't we failing our very purpose?" In that brief moment, Sarah sensed the foundations of a conversation that could transform her uncertainty into a pivot point. Here, among seasoned professionals, she might find advocates, potential mentors to help her refine her vision and strategies, but beneath this newfound strength, an anxious thought wriggled its way back into her mind. What if he abandoned her questions once the meeting adjourned? Would she falter without that external validation? With every engaging moment, her fear of isolation seeped back, a reminder of how she had previously clung to her roles as nurse and mother, yet rather than returning to that vulnerable space, Sarah pushed herself further. Fueled by this connection, she decided to create a deliberate network from within this venue, one that could include sympathetic voices who would stand beside her. As the discussions deepened, a lingering, undeniable question echoed in the recesses of her mind: how far would she have to reach to build a support system strong enough to validate her vision? Would she at last find the allies she needed, or would she still be left grappling in isolation? This moment was just the tip of the iceberg in her journey. A change was brewing, and with it came countless possibilities. Yet somehow, amidst her unfolding courage, doubt and apprehension coiled tighter. Could she bear the weight of challenging the very fabric of an industry steeped in tradition, or would the battles she had barely begun to fight drown her resolve? As the panelist mulled over her words, Sarah felt the pulsations of opportunity beat within her. The world blurred briefly, and it was just her and him, a stark contrast between skepticism and possibility. "What will you do next?" she thought, grappling with the gravity of that question. With every beat of her heart, doubt wafted in like smoke, trying to cloud her determination. But this time, it felt different. She wasn't going to let it overwhelm her. Believe in the process, she silently coached herself. Engage more deeply. With that resolve, she pressed further into the conversation. "What challenges do you see in the current system? I want to understand the resistance, not just for my proposal, but for the greater good," she added, her voice steady. There was a crack in his facade, and for a fleeting moment, it seemed as if she held the key to a clandestine realm of insights. He leaned forward, contemplating. "It's not the idea of equitable healthcare that's a problem, it's how entrenched interests respond to change. Old systems resist new modes of thinking." His words resonated like calls to arms, propelling Sarah's fearless spirit into action. Here was someone who understood the weight of the traditional system all too well. She sensed that by engaging him further, she was crafting alliances that could uplift her vision. "So how do we disrupt those interests efficiently?" she asked, feeling the spark of strategy ignite in her brain. Instead of reverting to her earlier self-doubt, Sarah embraced an unexpected boldness. She turned this dialogue into a chance to probe into possible collaboration. If I could show you my proposed steps, could we build a framework together to convince others of its necessity? She could almost see the gears turning in his mind. While she awaited his response, she thought of her mentors, those who had radiated belief and inspired her to take risks against the tide. No longer was she merely a nurse desiring change, she was stepping into the mold of a leader. What if I turned my fear into a series of strategic inquiries and partnerships? Ideas swirled in her mind like paint on a canvas, blending chaos with clarity. Her ability to connect and question transcended her insecurities. The conversation veered off into operational challenges, and for every complex obstacle that he mentioned, Sarah offered potential solutions. With each passing moment, she felt the contours of her confidence shift. She was not just answering questions but reshaping them, creating a reciprocal flow of inspiration. Yet even as adrenaline surged through her veins, a flicker of anxiety lurked within her mind. What happens when I leave this room? Will my voice echo beyond these walls, or will it dissipate? This lingering fear reminded her that she needed to secure tangible allies, not just friendly conversations. "Write to me," he suggested suddenly, as the discussions began to wind down. "If you can articulate your vision and how we might implement it, I can advocate for you at the next board meeting. Maybe we can turn some skeptics into supporters." His proposition electrified her, but it also planted seeds of trepidation in her heart. What if my writing fails to convey the passion I felt here? What if I can't rise to this challenge? A wall of pressure began to form, looming ever larger. Before the moment fully settled, she gained clarity amid the swirling confusion. This is an opportunity for growth, not a test of my worth. With every fiber of her being, she resolved to put pen to paper, opening her mind to the possibilities of articulate conviction. As they parted, Sarah felt a thrill coursing through her. She envisioned the draft that awaited her, a formal letter, a partnership carved through respect built on mutual understanding. However, the real battle loomed ahead, as the nagging thought of her fragile resolve haunted her. What if I fail to communicate my vision effectively? Will this be the moment that defines me, or will it be just another point of doubt? The pressure mounted, but for the first time in a long while, she felt capable of meeting these challenges head-on. As she left the room, the walls whispered their weighty traditions around her. The pulse of her potential quickened beneath that burden. She needed to channel that energy into the letter, crafting her thoughts with the precision of a surgeon. Would the writer in her emerge victorious, or would her innermost fears eclipse her potential? Her determined stride was met with a chilling realization. She had crossed the threshold of courage, but how would she navigate the precarious path that followed? The moment of truth was yet to come, casting shadows over her preparations, and as Sarah faced the unknown, she found herself on the brink of discovery, one that could either drown her ambitions or empower her like nothing ever had. In the quiet confines of her living room, Sarah sank into the cushions of her well-worn sofa, her laptop glowing softly in the dim light. It felt surreal, this sudden shift from uncertainty to purpose. She could almost hear the echo of their conversation, his encouragement still fresh, the weight of their discussions lingering over her like a heavy mist. The challenge now was far greater than it had ever been. The pressure to articulate her vision loomed larger than the life she had been accustomed to. Taking a deep breath, she opened a blank document. This was her chance to apply everything she had absorbed, to transform that exhilaration into coherent ideas that could resonate and persuade. What is at stake here? She thought, reminding herself that this wasn't merely a task, but a potential turning point, a chance to create real change in the healthcare system. However, as the cursor blinked expectantly, a flood of self-doubt swept in. The urgent voice of her inner critic whispered, "What if you aren't enough?" A familiar sensation took hold, an invisible weight pressing down on her lungs, an instinct to retreat. She shook her head, yearning for a clarity that had eluded her in moments like these. "Focus on your purpose, not perfection," she mentally chastised herself. She had learned to live by this mantra as a nurse, guiding her through stressful shifts when everything felt like chaos. You help people every day. You've successfully navigated difficult conversations before. This is no different. Drawing on that well of experience, she reminded herself of the countless times she had empowered patients to voice their concerns, to fight for what they needed. With purpose ignited, she crafted the opening line. Dear panelist S. name, I appreciate the opportunity for dialogue we shared. The words flowed slowly at first, but each sentence built upon the last, reinforcing her resolve. She articulated her vision with care, clearly defining her goals, focusing on the collaborative framework they had discussed. Midway through her paragraphs, Sarah's phone pinged, jolting her from her concentration. It was a message from her mentor, a fellow nurse who had inspired her to pursue leadership roles. Just checking in. Remember to center your unique perspective. It's what makes your voice vital. The words acted as a balm, easing her anxiety and sharpening her focus. It was a reminder that her experiences were her strength. As she continued, her narrative transformed. She included anecdotal evidence from her work, case studies that illuminated the disparities she had witnessed, and offered tangible next steps for implementation. Writing became a profound self-reflective exercise. With every line, she rediscovered her passion for advocacy and innovation. The more she wrote, the more her confidence burgeoned. She was shifting from a passive participant in the healthcare conversation to an active architect of change. What if I reframe the problem? She mused, considering how to present her arguments. What if I challenge the committee's preconceptions about risk and accountability? By the time she typed the closing sentence, she felt a burgeoning sense of ownership over her vision. She smiled at the screen, reading her final words aloud, grounding herself in the conviction they expressed. Together, we can reshape the healthcare landscape to prioritize equity and access for all. But that final triumph was short-lived. As soon as she hit send, reality collided with her ambitions. What if they don't understand my passion? What if the fear of rejection circles back? The weight of uncertainty veiled her triumph, replacing exhilaration with dread. Sarah's mind raced as new possibilities churned. Perhaps she could reach out to other professionals to seek feedback before the board meeting. Gather their insights, bolster her proposal with multiple perspectives. That moment of realization felt pivotal. This wasn't just about her anymore. The thought sparked another layer of self-confrontation. Would she be brave enough to share her vulnerability in seeking help? To reveal that despite her progress, she was still navigating the complexities of this new role. As the evening deepened, Sarah rose from her seat, an unexpected determination replacing doubt. She was on the brink of not only redefining her own career but also changing lives in a sector marred by inequality. Yet the night held its breath, a foreshadowing of what lay ahead. The reality of the board meeting loomed too close, and the tension mounted as her plan to gather allies took shape. Would she summon the courage to reach out, or would fear once again threaten to clip her wings? The following morning, Sarah found herself pacing the kitchen, a habitual anxious tick before an event. The sunlight poured through the window, illuminating the countertops cluttered with yesterday's dishes, remnants of her hurried breakfast. Today was not just the day after sending her proposal, it was the day she would decide how to approach her colleagues. The email she had sent was now an open door or a potential trap. She grabbed her phone, considering which name to dial first. The decision felt monumental. Would reaching out diminish her within the professional circle, or would it foster collaboration? Each scenario flashed quickly in her mind, mirroring the chaotic atmosphere of the hospital where she often felt invisible amidst the bustle. As she weighed her options, Sarah recalled her mentor's advice. Own your vulnerabilities, the mentor had said during an earlier discussion while discussing leadership's demanding nature. Real strength lies in trusting others to support you. A shiver of resolve ran through her. This was about more than her work, it was about larger issues impacting her field, communities, and patients. Perhaps, by unveiling her uncertainty, she could galvanize collective strength. She sat at the dining table, opened her laptop again, and scanned through her contact list of colleagues and acquaintances. A familiar name caught her eye: Maya, a junior nurse whose insights had surprised Sarah in their past conversations. They had brushed on topics of healthcare equity during late shifts, both sharing a passion for reform. Sarah's finger hovered over Maya's name, electricity sparking through her. With an unwavering resolve, she started typing a message. "Hey Maya, I'm hoping to gather feedback on my recent proposal. Your insights would be invaluable to me, and I really want to ensure that my voice echoes our shared objective for change." The moment felt significant. She was stepping out of her comfort zone, not simply seeking validation but inviting collaboration. The send button lingered ominously on the screen. For a heartbeat, fear gripped her. Would this gesture of openness lead to empowerment or expose her insecurity? She recalled the stories of fellow nurses advocating for patients, of how their combined voices had shifted paradigms. With a swift motion, Sarah clicked send and felt a sudden rush, plunging into uncharted waters. Within moments, her phone vibrated again. Maya's response buzzed through the air. "Absolutely. Let us meet up. I'd love to offer insights and discuss this further." Relief washed over Sarah, replacing some of her anxiety with enthusiasm. This was only the first step, but it felt monumental. Throughout the day, as patients came and went through her care, Sarah's mind wandered back to her intentions for the proposal. It had grown brighter and more compelling in her mind, a blend of personal conviction and collective resolve. Real change needed a united front, and she felt the stirrings of a movement rising within her. Between shifts, she began reaching out to others, crafting individualized messages that sought authentic feedback. Jared, a fellow nurse who had been working alongside her for years, quickly replied with eagerness. "Count me in. I have some data that could strengthen your proposal." Each response felt like a building block, forming a base of courage beneath her, yet, with momentum came doubt. As she gathered a tribe of supporters, deeper fears emerged. Would they genuinely align with her vision? Would her ideas be echoed back as she envisioned? In an effort to counter the rising tide of doubt, she spent the evenings researching best practices, statistics, and innovative strategies in systemic reform. The more she delved into the data, the more confident she felt that her insights could drive meaningful conversations at the board meeting, but the emotional stakes were still high. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Sarah returned home, exhausted yet reinvigorated. She had laid the groundwork for collaboration, but the actual content of her presentation nagged at her. What if her proposal fell flat, overshadowed by stronger voices' opinions? That night, as she prepared for bed, a new email notification pinged her phone. Subject: Exciting opportunity. Let's discuss. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. This was from the board chair, a personal invitation to discuss her proposal one-on-one before the official meeting. The anticipation coursed through her veins like a charging current. The time had come to face this moment head-on, but was she ready to confront the scrutiny of those who cost her courage in the first place? Would she be able to articulate the vision that had taken root in her heart? As Sarah stepped into the immaculate conference room, a sense of strength surged within her. Every nerve ending tingled with anticipation. This was not just a meeting, it was a chance to redefine her identity, her career, and ultimately, her impact on the healthcare landscape. She recalled the exhilarating moments of her conversations with colleagues, the support that had blossomed through vulnerability. It sparked a realization: she was no longer solely a nurse or a mother but an advocate, imbuing her journey with purpose. The board chair, an imposing figure with years of experience echoing in his demeanor, greeted her with a nod. "I appreciate you coming in, Sarah. I was intrigued by your proposal." His words lingered, igniting a flicker of excitement. This was the moment of truth. She had the opportunity to articulate her vision beyond written words and imbue it with her unwavering passion and expertise. Taking a deep breath, Sarah launched into her narrative, weaving personal anecdotes into data and insights. She presented her vision with clarity born of genuine conviction. Healthcare is more than systems and protocols, it's the very essence of lives. As she detailed her ideas focused on equitable care and systemic resilience, she saw the board chair lean forward, his posture shifting from skepticism to interest. This was her breakthrough. Every concern she had held previously swirled away, replaced by a pulsing confidence. She had rehearsed this moment in her mind, but standing here, she finally felt equipped to convey not just data but heart. I believe we can foster a healthcare environment that does not just serve patients but empowers them. That transforms not just our practices but lives. As the discussion deepened, they explored potential pilot programs and collaborative frameworks that could become springboards for change. A spark of collaboration ignited a dialogue about innovative models, and Sarah felt the momentum build. She was no longer alone in her aspirations. After what felt like hours, the meeting concluded with a round of applause from the board. Unexpectedly, the chair's previously cautious demeanor had morphed into ellipsis, a signal of endorsement. "Let us move forward with this," he stated decisively, nodding towards Sarah. The proposals she had shared resonated deeply among them, and they embarked on fostering partnerships with stakeholders who echoed her passion and vision. Walking out of the conference room, a sense of solid confidence enveloped Sarah. It was as if the universe had aligned, validating the journey she had taken, a journey punctuated by self-doubt, sleepless nights, and an unwavering commitment to both her daughter and her profession. She had not only conquered the fears that had threatened to undermine her but also established a position of influence among industry leaders. Later that evening, as Sarah sat with Lily at their kitchen table, she felt a wave of pride ripple through her. "You believed in me, didn't you?" she asked her daughter, who simply grinned, twirling a pencil. Here, at the intersection of motherhood and professional ambition, Sarah found her true fulfillment. It was more than just achievements, it was the clarity of purpose she had unearthed within herself. With her proposal moving toward implementation, she felt the foundation for lasting change being established. She was no longer merely a participant in the medical field but a voice, one that would not just echo but resonate with the potential for reform. The relief washed over her, intertwining joy with gratitude. She had faced her fears and transformed them. As Sarah put Lily to bed, she affirmed, "We have so many new adventures ahead, my sweet pea." That night, as she lay in bed reflecting, Sarah understood that this journey was just the beginning. Every challenge now represented an opportunity, every setback a lesson. She had the ability to influence change, not just for herself but for countless others down the line. Sarah Stewart stepped fully into her role, filled with new ambitions, fierce resolve, and an unquenchable commitment to advocacy in healthcare. She had achieved recognition and competence, allowing herself to be a trusted leader among her peers, proof that she had finally claimed her identity, emerging from the shadows into the light of self-acceptance and empowerment. Every individual battle she faced had melded into a broader narrative of triumph. Sarah proved to herself and to the world that ambition intertwined with resilience could produce profound outcomes, finally allowing her to embrace her role as both a nurse and an advocate for change. Now, as she continued to expand her efforts beyond the meeting room, she recognized the importance of sharing her journey. It was her chance to inspire others, providing the encouragement needed for those still trapped by doubt, just like she once was. In this realization lay her next calling, that of a mentor, sharing the strength she had cultivated. This was her moment to honor her late mother's legacy, to nurture future generations of innovators and changemakers in healthcare. With newfound confidence fueling her steps, Sarah knew the world awaited her voice. Now this is your moment to transform your understanding. Don't wait any longer. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and uplift more stories like Sarah's transformative journey. Comment your reactions and theories about her incredible achievement. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. The journey of personal overcoming continues, and only true fans recognize the power of amplification.